doncs comencem ja amb la primera sessió d'avui, que és la sessió número 7, amb el títol Transport flexible, una visió europea. Per parlar-nos d'aquesta qüestió, demano que vinguin aquí a l'escenari els tres ponents d'aquesta sessió, el senyor Bas Kiepers, director del programa Transport Públic i Flexible de la província de Gelderland, de Països Baixos. You can sit there. Thank you. El senyor Stefano Borgato, Transport Planner, planificador de transport de TRT Trasporti e Territorio. Hola, presentarà ahí. I el senyor Hamid Zarganpour, Chief Strategist of Swedish Transport Administration, responsable d'estratègies de l'administració del transport de Suècia. Moltes gràcies a tots per assistir en aquesta sessió i començarà el senyor Bas Kiepers, director del programa Transport Públic i Flexible de Gelderland, dels Països Baixos. Ens explicarà les maneres d'organitzar el transport flexible en aquest territori. You can talk, but this side, okay, if you want some video or some next. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bas Kiepers. I'm from the province of Gelderland in the Netherlands. And I'm tell you something about flexible transport in our province of Gelderland. At the photo you see the city of Arnhem, the new train station. That's where our office is located. At the province of Gelderland, I'm responsible for the public transport and flexible transport. First of all, the content of my presentation. It consists of the following 4 steps. After a brief introduction of Gelderland, I will tell you more about mobility policy of Gelderland. Then I will show you the way flexible transport is organized. And finally, the conclusions and recommendations. Gelderland is the biggest province of the Netherlands and is situated in the eastern part of the Netherlands. You can see the red space in the Netherlands. It's got 2 million inhabitants. There is a relation with Gelderland and Catalonia. For example, the Polish network in Brussels. We heard a presentation earlier this Congress. We are working together in that network, and also we are sharing knowledge in different projects. Partners in Gelderland work together with partners in Catalonia in 79 projects together. For example, also projects on regional public transport. The mobility policy in the province, we are responsible for regional mobility. First of all, for the bus and regional trains, regional traffic and regional roads, traffic and transport management, cycling and walking, road safety and logistics. We try to stimulate walking and cycling as forms of active mobility. Cycling is quite well organized in the Netherlands, but walking isn't. That's why we work together with Dutch partners to create input for the International Congress in October 2009 in the city of Rotterdam. It's called Walk 21, and I all invite you to that Congress. I haven't focused my speech on active mobility, but walking and cycling are one of the most flexible modes of transport, and especially till a distance of 15 kilometers, and it's also the most sustainable one. In the Netherlands, we've got a Dutch railroad company. He's responsible for all railroads on the map. But we, as a province of Gelderland, are responsible for the regional railroads and also for the bus network in Gelderland. Our long-term public transport policy is focused on a stronger network of bus and regional trains. That means a higher quality, more frequent, faster, and mobility hubs. And especially mobility hubs, they give a chance to active mobility. That's very important. On the photo above, you see the new trolley. It's a new electric-driven bus in Arnhem, in the city of Arnhem, which uses overhead wires. There's no diesel involved anymore. So we are experimenting and hope we can roll it out throughout the next years. Flexible transport in Gelderland is possible within or outside the concessions. For us, let me explain. Concession is a long-term contract with fixed networks and one transport company who wins the concession. Flexible transport or transport on demand, like we call it, is additional to our main public transport system, like I've told you, within or outside the concession. And for us, it's important that both systems of flexible transport don't compete with each other when they are both paid with a lot of public money. First, within the concession, flexible transport is using bus stops and train stations. You see 3 examples. I will tell you more about it. They are all financed within the concession of 120 million euros a year. First of all, Brankflex. Brankflex is a system. You see a vehicle on the photo. It's also possible for disabled people to go with that kind of vehicles. It's going from bus stop to bus stop and not on a bus route, so you can go everywhere you like within the city of Arnhem and Nijmegen. We tried Brankflex also in the rural areas, but it didn't work well. At the moment we investigate if we use public money on a good way with Brankflex, because it knows high costs and quite a low use. The waiting time when you are at the bus stop is 20 minutes if you call or use an app. An important notice is that 14% of the people on bicycles started using the taxi system Brankflex, so that's something we are not so very happy with. Another kind example is Arriva Vlinder. Vlinder is a butterfly in Dutch. It's available in 6 towns already, and reservation isn't necessary on 6 train stations. So in the evening and at night time, when the trains arrive, you can step on the butterfly, and it drives you where you want to go, to another bus stop. It existed a few years, and the system has started when there were empty buses driving in the evening and at night. Then Dial a Bus. It's mostly driven by a normal cab, like you see, and you have to call in 1 hour in advance. A Dial Bus is only outside the timetable on a normal bus route. Then outside the concessions, we know door-to-door transportation. For example, from your home to the pub. We know 6 regions with all their own system with a call center. All the systems got their own name. And in a regional taxi, 95% of all the travelers are disabled people, which cannot go by regular public transport, and 5% is flexible public transport. For the disabled people, it's financed by the municipalities, and for the public transport, it's financed by the province. This system competes with Brankflex, we saw earlier, in the cities of Arnhem and Nijmegen. The last example is community-based mobility. Community-based mobility is within a few ways, but I show you 2 examples. First of all, you see a community car in the picture above. It's driven by volunteers, and below you see golf carts. It's another way of transport, mainly used in city areas and town areas, and that's good. It's good for the short rides in town, which are expensive for the regional taxi. So it's a good. It's helping the regional taxi. Finally, my conclusions. Flexible transport is constantly changing with influence. We heard earlier this Congress, like more traffic jams, autonomous vehicles, and movement from owning to sharing. We cannot organize flexible transport on our own anymore, and we need to work together on an equal base with all partners involved. Dare to constantly make choices, quit, change, or go on with projects. Make sure you use public money efficiently. It's precisely here that the opportunities for walking and cycling lie. Keep on trying and experimenting, learning by doing. From the things that went wrong, we learned the most. Sharing knowledge with partners in the project is necessary. Make sure you talk about ownership of data and planning tools. Sharing knowledge in networks like this Congress or Polis are worthwhile. You can bring and take back information home. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. You can have a seat. A continuació és el torn de Stefano Borgato, Transport Planner de TRT Trasporti e Territorio. El senyor Borgato ens parlarà del projecte High Reach, en què també hi participa l'AMTU i de com TRT coordina el projecte.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So my name is Stefano Borgato. I am Transport Planner and Policy Analyst at TRT Trasporti e Territorio, which is a transport consultancy firm based in Milan, Italy. And we are the project coordinator of High Reach, which is what I'm going to talk about. And as she said, AMTU is a part of the Take-Up group. So the project, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for inviting to AMTU, for inviting me for this opportunity to give this speech, and also for assisting to such interesting projects and initiatives that are going on in Catalonia and all over Europe. So let's move. High Reach, the project I'm talking about, whose motto is Innovative Mobility Solution to Cope with Transport Poverty, is an Horizon 2020 project whose goal is to contribute to the eradication of transport poverty and focusing on the development of new tools and business models to improve accessibilities for special areas and community. We are a group of 9 partners from all over Europe that are working on this project, which started in October 2017 and will last until September 2020. This is very important because the European Union supports accessibility, in particular when it comes to improve accessibility for vulnerable social groups, such as elderly people, disabled people living in remote areas, and so on. So iReach would like to assist the European Union in achieving this goal. And aside the partners, there is the Take-Up group, which is a permanent table of public and private sector actors that support the project initiatives and are interested in replicating the new tools and business models that are developed by the project. And AMTU is part of the TUG. So first of all, in the first stage, iReach needs to identify and define what is transport poverty. So the social dimension of transport has received so far little attention in academia and policy making, but recently increased attention on the relationship between social disadvantage and mobility-related disadvantage has led to the definition of transport poverty. So we can define an individual as transport poor when one of the following conditions apply. So either there is a problem of availability, so there is no suitable transport option available, or problem of accessibility, where transport options do not reach destinations and specific opportunities. There is a problem of affordability, transport is too expensive, or time budget, transport takes too much time. Or finally, there is a problem of adequacy, means that travel conditions might be dangerous, unsafe, or unhealthy for the individual. And depending on the needs of the different vulnerable groups, some conditions might be more important than others. So how inclusive mobility is provided in Europe right now? We have basically 3 different groups of transportation options. We have publicly contracted mobility services, including conventional public transport, demand-responsive public transport, and transport for people with reduced mobility. Then we have market-based mobility services, including taxis, private hire vehicle, ride-hailing services, and sharing services. And finally, we have community-based mobility options, such as community transport services, citizen bus, peer-to-peer car sharing. However, such solutions have the current transport offer still some limits and drawbacks. For example, flexible and inclusive mobility are still sometimes not a key component of a transport system. There is a need for more flexible and integrated schemes, or there are limits in the different regulations. So different rules applies to different providers, and that could be a limit. There is also an absence of a well-balanced and fair competitions that might hinder small local companies to participate in the market. And finally, there is the lack of adequacy of available mobility options. And on top of that, most of the intervention are conceived to reduce urban congestion or to enhance stabilities in urban areas. For example, bike sharing, car sharing schemes, they're all good and positive, but they might sometimes disproportionately benefit a wealthier segment of the population. It is also important to take into account the social role of transport. So public policy have to internalize this with a closer attention to the mobility needs of the most vulnerable groups of people. So the specific vulnerable groups that the HiReach project wants to address the mobility needs includes the children and youth, the elderly, women, people with reduced mobility, migrants and ethnic minorities, people living in rural areas, and low-income and unemployed people. However, not only the different social groups, but it's also important to take into account the geographical and spatial elements that affects mobility poverty. In fact, spatial conditions are determined by different factors, and density, accessibility has a strong impact on individual mobility behavior and needs. So the target areas of the project includes rural, peri-urban, urban peripheral, remote, and deprived areas. Also, it's important to take into account the specific condition of a local context, since throughout Europe conditions might vary very wide. So the study regions that a HiReach project focuses on are 6. They are located in Portugal, in Italy, Luxembourg, Germany, Romania, and Greece. So those are the 6 regions where we developed our project. And the final goal, as I mentioned before, is to explore and develop in these study regions new business models for collective passenger transport. Such solutions should be small-scale, modular, and easily replicable mobility services that can be developed at affordable prices or with minimum subsidies. And this process builds on the potential of bundling together mixed and dispersed, spatial and non-coordinated optimized trip requests and needs from different vulnerable groups. So enlarging the customer base and tackling the limitation of scale mobility solution is one of the key of the project. So the project is structured in 3 different steps. The first one was the problem setting, including the analysis of mobility attitudes of vulnerable social groups through a desk research and fieldwork activities, including the involvement of local communities, policymakers, interviews with local experts, and a first round of focus group. It's very important because the project fosters on social innovation processes through an analysis of capabilities and attitudes of different social groups and their direct involvement as co-users and co-owners of the proposed solutions. The second step includes exploring the ideas. We handpicked 20 different innovative transport solutions according to 4 dimensions: ICT interoperability, sharing economy principles, attractiveness, and new organizational business models. Then this stage includes the generation of idea. 2 weeks ago in Brussels, we did a European multidisciplinary workshop in collaborations with transport operators, startuppers, and other people and organization involved in the world of transport, with the idea of generate and ideate inclusive mobility solutions that could be recommended and proposed on a second round of focus group in the 6 study areas that I showed you before. Finally, the third step is the development of the solutions, and that will be the project involving startups, innovative entrepreneurs, and also local communities. The outcomes of this step will be an open software tools that will solve basic technical challenges specific to transport poverty solution, an insight package on solutions to transport poverty for startups, which is a guide describing trends, technical advances, barriers, and potential path of opportunity for market exploitation, the integration on European startup ecosystem, and finally, the launch of the HiReach Startup Lab. The HiReach Startup Lab will involve startups in developing solutions for transport poverty. We will start with a selection of 20 startups that will benefit from 1 week follow-up period, and then with 5 startups, we will follow up in a 3-month in-depth follow-up period. And to conclude the process, our goal is to develop 4 new inclusive mobility solutions that will be tested and validated on the field. So there will be an open call for startups, likely after the summer in the fall. So if anyone will be interested, I will recommend to follow us, to subscribe to our newsletter, visit our HiReach website, and to get the latest news from the project. And again, thank you very much for this great opportunity of showing the HiReach project as such an important event. So I very appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, senyor Borgato. I ara és el moment de sentir la intervenció del senyor Hamid Zarganpour, Chief Strategist of Swedish Transport Administration. Ens parlarà dels esforços per formar serveis de mobilitat flexibles i assequibles mitjançant l'ús de tecnologies i tècniques avançades. També ens parlarà de l'adopció de polítiques pertinents i de la inversió en un sistema de transport intel·ligent.
Thank you very much, Christina. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I don't see so good here. It is very light up here. Anyways, thank you very much for having me here. And my first slide, I hope it comes very soon. Oh yes, I have to do this. No? We have a kind of technical problem here.
Technical problem?
Yes,
So
yes,
only
okay.
2 minutes.
Okay, no worries, no worries. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, what do I do in 2 minutes? I can tell you about my presentation. Actually, I remember what I have written. The thing is that the dream of flexible mobility today, it has its ground in more than 100 years back, when people really didn't have any possibility to travel anywhere at all. I mean, during a lifetime, people wouldn't be able to travel more than 100 kilometers from their home. Actually, it was just 130 years back. No slide here yet, so I keep continuing. So what happened actually at that time, we didn't have this infrastructure either, that we know it as it is today. So we developed a product. We introduced it for people to make life much more easier, make them more mobile, and so on. And we used the very basic concept of cars like building our cities around. So the car became the norm for developing our cities as we know it today. At that time, we didn't thought of all the consequences in the long term. We didn't have that much of a growing population in the world as it is today. So I'm going to go through it as soon as the slides come up. But anyways, so the thing is that now, well, when we have so many cities that they are struggling with lots of people living there and their transportation and different use and different users using the system, it is very important to understand the concept of being mobile from the human being perspective. A safe, affordable transport for everyone, and inclusive. I like the idea in inclusive society that we have a system that is affordable for everyone, no matter where they live. This is very important because you may have heard about congestion charging. It was introduced in London 2 days ago, and it has been in Sweden for many years now. Actually, for 10 years, we have a congestion charging. What it does really, when it comes to inclusiveness, what it does really, congestion per se, it means that there are too many. So somebody should get off the system to make sure there is space for others. And those guys who are at the end of the hierarchy, they are usually put out. For the people who can actually pay, and so, oh my God, thank you, thank God, thank you. No worries, that's all right. So I go through it. So this is what was I talking about. That everybody dreams today about a green, safe, affordable door-to-door transport. But it started actually with this guy, 1884, when he actually invented. This is Carl Friedrich Benz, 1884. He invented the combustion engine. And as you can see, it was very simple concepts of carriage they had. It was the horses that at that time. They just took the engine, put it there, and started to travel more faster. True story, believe it or not, but the very same year when he wanted to show it on public, he actually crashed his car into a wall. At that time, the industry engaged in developing system and developing the technique to make the journey more safer. And we build the hardware as it is, the cars as it is, much more advanced than ever before. And it happened. We have active safety, passive safety, all of it only for one particular reason, to make sure that we can go around the main issue why accident happens. It means the driver. The driver, most of the time, more than 99%, I would say, is the main issue for any accidents. But the cars itself, as I was talking in the very beginning, it was the reason why we could actually start to build our societies, to develop economy and dream the way of traveling all around the world and so on. It was the main reason that we could do it. Without cars, without being fast, it wouldn't be possible. This is a picture from Stockholm, one of the most beautiful places. I love it. I live there. But at night, in the morning when I want to use it, this looks like this one. It is not nice. We have created a system with a lot of capacity that you cannot use it. When they are rolling and when they are actually parking everywhere in our cities, they take a lot of space, a space that people need for living there, for being attractive places that people would like to live. So we have created a complex system which is dangerous. With the transportation system all around the world, it costs like 1.4 million. It is written 1.25. It is the old number. 1.4 million people dying in this system. There's a lot of noise, a lot of pollution, a lot of accidents, incidents happening all around the world. And this is not acceptable and is not sustainable. This is something that we have to do something about it. have a look at the numbers. Numbers are very important. In 2017, 24th of April, I was looking, and I recommend you to have a look on this website, this current population on this planet, what happens. Those people who are leaving us to leave place for the people coming to this world, it is ticking like you can't imagine. I was looking at this one, it ticks like this one. People die, and it comes to this, into this earth like boom, 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 boom. It's amazing. And we are just growing. Within just 10, 15 years from now, we are going to have many big cities, mega cities, which is more than 10 million people, and we have to deliver services. And flexible mobility is one of the main issues to be discussed, and shared mobility and a strong capacity for public transport is the main issue to be discussed here. Have a look at the numbers again. At the same day, actually, I had a look at this newspaper from Canada saying that we passed just 1 billion cars in this planet. Can you imagine that the prognosis in 2035, we will have 2 billion cars? Is it even, it is reported by a Green Car Report. Just think of, is it even possible to do so? 2 billion. Whatever we have done in 130, double it in just 17 years, 13 years, something like that, or like 20 years. And where are all of these cars? I'll have a look at that one. In Sweden, we had 520 cars per 1,000 inhabitants in Sweden. In 2010, we didn't have any other numbers. In 2014, in China, we had 113 vehicles per 1,000 inhabitants. The next year, the very next year, in 2015, it was 205 vehicles per 1,000 inhabitants. Huge acceleration. And you may have seen this picture. It is also from Tibet to Shanghai. This is also 7th of October 2015. This queue was 12 kilometers long. It took 10 to 12 days to open it up. People reported that at that time, it was like people couldn't move more than 1 meter per day. Can you imagine what a block we are going to make if we just continue like what we are doing? So sustainability is very important, and sharing is the new black. I would put it this way. And this is mobility as a service that we are working with. We have, after the World War II, we have developed our system in many ways in Sweden, and what we would like to do is to connect all of this system, to make the system much more smarter than it is today, to provide services for people by sharing data and sharing also resources. And now I would like to show my video, if it is possible. Hope no technical problems. Good.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities are Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be found off my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. When you look under the rocks and plants and take a glance at the fancy ants, then maybe try a few. The bare necessities of life will come to you. They'll come to you.
This was, of course, Uber. but I like the idea. We need to get in to influence our users to start sharing. This is the main point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe you need some translate for now. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Zaganpour. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry for the technical problems.
No worries at all. No worries.
Molt bé, com que tenim temps, ara voldria, si algú del públic, els assistents, volen formular alguna pregunta als nostres ponents, sisplau, sense vergonya, aixequin la mà i poden preguntar als nostres ponents si tenen algun dubte, alguna qüestió, alguna curiositat que vulguin saber. Sí. No, han de tenir un micròfon, que ara li acostaran. Mira, Didac, el senyor que està al mig del passadís. Gràcies.
Hola. Sí. So my question is, don't you think that with so many modes of flexible transport, this is going to be a mess for the user, for the whole system, a little bit like the Uber advertisement that we saw there. I think that having so many different ways, especially for the first speaker, I think that in your region you have very many different ways of transport. For the user, understanding these very many different ways to convey this flexible transport must be very difficult, no?
It is very difficult.
So how do you think, in terms of the planner, the Swedish representative, how do you think that should be changed in order to make it more understandable for the final user? Because if the final user does not understand, there's no way to make progress in that sense.
I expect the most from MaaS, Mobility as a Service. It access, if you have one MaaS system or 10, 100 or 1,000, it doesn't matter how many MaaS apps you've got, but it helps to give access to all kinds of mobility you have. As a government, we are looking to that we don't have too many systems working together, because systems which are half full, two systems like Brainflex and other taxi system, if you have both systems operating but they are half full, you still have a problem. You can better have one system and pay the money for that, the public money. I think that's a better solution. But yeah, like I said, MaaS, I expect a lot of it.
Question is also from the other.
I don't know. Do you hear me? This is very essential questions. This is very good question actually. The thing is, at this particular moment, what we are experiencing is that again, industry is introducing new way of doing things. The same, more of the same, but in better shape. So what we are thinking of, it was like 130 years ago, they did the same thing. They hold the story. Their storytelling is like what they do, what kind of products and business models they are producing, and we are responsive to that one. What we think of in Sweden is we use our people. If we get to our people to understand how they would like to see their future developed, it would be completely different. And we use different innovative solutions in combination with business models which are sustainable and you can scale it up in the long run. Then we put those in place, we would be much better taking bigger steps towards sustainable development. This is how we are thinking. So we are not just taking all the techniques that we say that all of this will solve our problems. We don't do that. We say that, okay, there are potentials, but as planners, we have the responsibility to understand people better than we do today. not understanding the industry's needs of additional way of using their products, because we don't have so much space. We have to think. I'm not sure if I gave you an answer.
I guess that it's a difficult answer, because at the end you want the best business model to grow. And in order to have the best business model to grow, you need to have many business models. So that they sort of, in an ecosystem, the weakest die and the strongest survive, right? So for me, that I understand, but maybe one possibility would be to create some sort of platform that allows the governments to manage the whole ecosystem without providing the final service.
Exactly.
Right? So in such a way that you control the users, that you control the operators who are providing the operational services, the final operational services, and those who provide better services are those who survive. But by the way, you control who are the users, and you give the right to the users, and you also understand the users in order, as you said, to adequate the best model to them, right? So, I don't know.
Més preguntes?
Thank you.
More questions? Sisplau, allà.
Sí, ho faré en català. Gràcies al vehicle, la ciutat es va poder desparramar pel territori, jo diria, i el que serien les concentracions urbanes van començar a ser aquestes periurbanes o aquests elements, diguem-li, molt dispersos i molt monofuncionals en el territori. Sembla que el transport flexible el que intenta d'alguna manera és abaratir el cost en aquestes, o una part, diguem-li, d'aquestes actuacions públiques de transport flexible, intenten abaratir el cost d'aquests desplaçaments, diguem-ne una mica periurbans, que fets d'una manera individual tenen un cost global important per lo que és la utilització del vehicle, o l'altre que és la utilització inclús econòmica del resident a nivell de taxi. Jo faig aquesta observació, és a dir, si facilitem encara la rebaixa dels preus del transport en aquestes localitzacions periurbanes, no estem acreixentant també aquests models d'ocupació periurbana que són els que ens porten en aquesta contradicció? És a dir, no estem tancant un cercle que d'alguna manera és el que ha motivat aquests problemes de transport en les metròpolis, no en la part, diguem-li, més concentrada, sinó en la part més desperdigada, que també és cautiva de l'aglomeració central. És a dir, no estem retroalimentant el procés de periurbanització volent facilitar aquest transport, diguem-li, flexible i a la demanda amb més baixos preus finançats d'alguna manera per l'entitat pública per tothom. Gràcies.
But should I go for it?
S'ha entès o no?
Please, Stefano. Yes. Oh, should I?
I didn't have the translation.
No.
So
So I followed. You're completely right, sir. This is what I would like to say, that you know what, this is not fair that some of people don't have access to the system and some other have, and we are encouraging and introducing the old approach to even more affordable. But the idea is that we have to think bigger, not in the not in the short term. We have to think bigger than this in the future. What kind of society we would like to have, not like what we are seeing today, that people spend most of their time 2 hours per day in congestions everywhere. Even though if it's going to be even more cheaper, what will happen? What would happen? This is kind of strategies that we have to think of. And one thing that I would like to say that my colleague here said in the very beginning, it was It was not the, active mobility, which is the essential part of everything we are doing. We think that our cities share in equally between cars, space for cars, and people who want to work, and people who want to bike. And we know that people would like to do so if they had the opportunity, if they could feel safe and secure using the system. We haven't been able to assure a coexistence between vulnerable people in the system and all these cars. Are we going to introduce and make it even more affordable for cars to come into the system? Or should we think differently and start to create societies we can assure that people have a space for doing their mobility as they want as well? So these are the questions we are looking to. I fully agree with you. We can't just continue to accelerate this development even in bigger contexts, even bigger problem. I fully agree with what you are saying. Sorry.
Especially when you look to bicycles, as a province of Gelderland, we are making a lot of highways for bicycles without traffic lights anymore. Now the most routes are all the time crossing roads for cars, and you have to wait for 10 or 15 times in city areas. The highways for cycling, we are making them in city areas till the city center and the public transport stations, but also between villages. So yeah, I think that's a good opportunity to invest in those kind of highways for bicycles. That costs a lot of money, but for the bicycle, it's a very cheap way of traveling.
Més preguntes? More questions? Bé, doncs jo faré una. Pel senyor Borgato, que així, a ver si así, señor Borgato, puede responder. En castellano va bien. Creuen que el transport flexible que estem dissenyant a Europa, creen que el transporte flexible que estamos diseñando en Europa podrá competir con los modelos de movilidad que nos están llegando de los Estados Unidos?
Yes, I got it. So basically you're asking me if flexible mobility in Europe can compete with the models from the United States.
Yes.
Well, I mean, in the United States and Canada, where actually I lived for 2.5 years, the urbanization model is completely different from Europe. So also like the car possessions rates and the way that people use, for example, trains or public transport is completely different compared to Europe. But nevertheless, I think that there is a huge potential in Europe for like development of like US-born flexible transportation modes that will be adapted to the different urbanization and more dense urban cities, European urban cities, but definitely I see there is a potential. So my idea is that the more opportunities and alternatives that people have to not use and not have the necessity to own a personal car at the end will provide like an alternative to its possession and therefore a more usage of public transport in collaboration with flexible transportation modes, because public transport itself, for example, cannot substitute for private car. Car sharing itself cannot substitute for a private car, but it's a combination of public transit, sharing, hailing, ride hailing, that will provide users a real opportunity to not feel the need to own and drive a private car. So my idea is that good integration between public transport, flexible, on-demand, sharing mobility system is the key for a sustainable mobility in the future.
Are you agree?
Well, when it comes to United States, we are like 1,000 times better than them in thinking the holistic approach. We are much better than thinking that resources is not enough for to continue like this. This is not the way we should continue. So on each parameter we are better, but one parameter they are developing the technique, the technology much better than we do. They are investing in much better technologies. And also, they are very fast on changing regulations in comparison to Europe. We are stuck into so many institutions that we have to deal with. That's our challenge. But when it comes to preconditions necessary to introduce something better, we are much better than United States and also Canada. This is my own personal judgment.
And what do you think, sir, about that?
I think the same. We can learn from initiatives in America, but we have to look to Europe again, and I think we do it quite a good job with flexible modes of transport. Not only active mobility like normal walking and cycling, but also with electric forms of cycling, for example, and mopeds, which are also electric, like Lime. So, most of the companies aren't coming from America, but are also in Europe itself. Yeah.
Alguna pregunta més? Si no, donem per acabada aquesta sessió. Molt bé, doncs. Sí, senyor Borgato.
No, just to remind if, like considering the iReach project, if there's going to be a call for startups, so if anyone will be interested after the summer to follow up and participate in the designing of inclusive mobility solutions to cope with transport poverty, I think together we will be able to create something and collaborate together. So I really invite you to follow us, like get in touch, and I think there are very interesting like people and projects that I hear here at the Mobility in Catalonia. So I think we can make something good together.
Okay. Thank you very much.